If you're not getting good results with double embossing on your glitter embossing powders, I have some great tips for you. Hop along with the WOW Creative team as we thank one of our favorite people, Catherine Pooler. The next person on the hop will be listed at the top of the description down below, and as always, there'll be a link to all of the supplies. I'm starting off with the Forever 13 Trio. This has some beautiful colors. The teal is All That Jazz, the pink is Be Mine, and the orange is Grape Crush. So I decided to do a full background panel, and at first I was thinking I would use this as a background. For me, the quickest way to do this is just to do it with a brayer. This gives you a little bit of a distressed look, which I like, so you get some white patchy areas. Ultimately, I decided not to use this as a background and to do the double embossing technique that I'm going to share with you. So I'm going to sprinkle on All That Jazz. When you're using a glitter embossing powder like this one is particularly chunky. There's some really big pieces of silver foil in there. You can see all of that sparkle. You want to make sure you shake up your container first and get a good mixture of the glitter and the embossing powder, and then go ahead and sprinkle it on. I'll set that aside to funnel everything back into the container. And the most important thing about using a glitter embossing powder is to heat your cardstock from the back. If you start heating this from the front, you will blow all of your glitter away and you'll have a hot mess all over your craft room. So start your heating from behind. You can see it start to melt as the glitter starts to twinkle. Once it's melted and the glitter is embedded in the embossing powder, you can go to the front. Here I have the Best Things in Life floral stamp set from Catherine Pooler, and I'm just picking out my design. I opted for these little floral leaves here, and this is the double embossing technique. Now I find the easiest way to do this is to stamp it in a pigment ink. It doesn't have to be black. If you have a bunch of different pigment ink colors, you can use a different color that's going to coordinate with the embossing powder that you're going to use. It doesn't have to be an exact match. But this is how you're going to make sure that you've stamped a good impression. With the clear embossing ink, you won't be able to see what's stamped, and so you won't know if your impression is good on that chunky glitter background. So choose a pigment ink. You don't want to use a dye ink. The pigment inks dry slower and allow you to sprinkle on your embossing powder and have them stick well. Here I use the Primary Ebony embossing powder. I'll go ahead and die cut these with the coordinating die set. And then I decided I needed a quick background, although I do love how this looks on just the complete white background as well. But I was being super lazy and wanted a quick background. So I just decided to use my brayer, which I had on my desk, and run it through the black pigment ink that I just used. And I love the look of this. I'll definitely be doing this with more colored inks as well, not just black, but I think this gives you a really cool look, super quick, hardly any effort at all. So I definitely recommend that. Do make sure to leave a comment on each step on our YouTube hop because we are giving away a $25 gift card. So leave a comment below. If you're enjoying this video, you're learning something new, make sure to hit that like button and consider subscribing. So I decided to add a third or a second color to this, and so I wasn't sure which one I wanted, so I went ahead and did this again with the pink and the purple embossing powders. I ended up going with the pink, and I'll stamp a sentiment from the set with the obsidian pigment ink. And me rubbing my palm over it, that was just me conditioning the stamp because I'd never used it before. You could also use an eraser. There's a bunch of different ways that you can condition your stamp to get a good impression. I added foam squares to the back of these double embossed die cuts, and I'll go ahead and get these arranged so that they frame the sentiment. And look how sparkly that is, you guys. So, I mean, you could have filled in these leaves with the embossing pen, but I think this double embossing technique is a much faster way to get that same look and a lot less effort. So you'll have to let me know in the comments whether you've done the double embossing technique and creating the background with just a brayer and some pigment ink or any other inks. Here for the next card, I have Aquatini from Catherine Pooler, and I'm just gonna stamp an all over background pattern here. So I just have it applied to a block. I find that's much easier than using a MISTI if I'm going to stamp a complete background pattern. And Of course, with the Catherine Pooler inks, you don't want to press too hard. It's a foam pad there, so if you press too hard, then you're going to get a little too much ink on your stamp. So I'm just going to make sure that when you're doing a pattern like this, you start in the middle and then work your way out, or you might end up with some weird gaps. So just start in the middle and work your way out. Make sure to stamp off the edge. Here I have the Ladies That Lunch stamp set, and I'm going to just stamp a sentiment with that. You can see it off to the side. I die cut another square here, and I just pressed my Wow Clear Embossing ink on it. And I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle on the Grape Crush embossing powder here. And I'll use this to back the sentiment for a little extra sparkle. So I just pour all of the embossing powder on here, you guys. I'm super generous, and then I pick it up. I find that easier to just kind of go for it there, and then I'll just funnel all of the excess back into the container. And you know your embossing powder is heating when you see it twinkle like that, and I love the color shift that this powder does when you heat it. So I'll go ahead and pop up the sentiment on this glitter background, and this is a really just clean and simple card here. I hope that you guys enjoyed these techniques today, especially the double embossing technique. If you did, hit that like and subscribe down below, and do be sure to follow along with the hop. Leave a comment on every step so that you're in for a chance to win that $25 gift card. Many thanks to Catherine Pooler to putting together beautiful collaboration colors with Wow. I absolutely love the colors that they released together.